History books often celebrate familiar names, but what about the heroes whose stories remain in the shadows? Imagine a teenager discovering a life-saving drug, only to have her credits stolen. Picture a behind-the-scenes strategist mentoring the civil rights leaders we revere. Envision a legal pioneer winning case after case to dismantle segregation, and a guitar virtuoso laying the groundwork for rock and roll before Elvis ever strummed a chord. These are the untold tales of exceptional Black women who changed history, unsung heroes in science, activism, politics, and the arts. Today, we'll shine a spotlight on 4 remarkable women whose contributions, struggles, and impact shaped the world we live in. Our first story takes us to 1915, where a young chemist named Alice Ball made a discovery that would change medicine forever. At just 23 years old, Alice developed the Ball method, a groundbreaking injectable treatment for leprosy, a disease that had plagued humanity for centuries. Before her discovery, patients were sent to isolated colonies with no hope of recovery. But Alice's method allowed patients to be treated and even return to their communities. Despite her genius, Alice's success was nearly erased. She passed away at just 24 before she could publish her findings. A male colleague took credit for her work, renaming it the Dean Method. It wasn't until decades later that historians uncovered the truth. The cure that saved thousands came from Alice Ball. Today, she is finally honored as a pioneer in chemistry, with her name etched in history and a day of remembrance in Hawaii. Alice Ball's legacy is proof that even the brightest minds can be overlooked, but their impact can never be erased. Our next story takes us to the heart of the civil rights movement. You've heard of Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, but have you heard of Ella Baker? Ella was the power behind the movement, the strategist who built organizations, trained leaders, and made sure the fight for justice had deep, unshakable roots. Unlike many civil rights figures, Ella Baker didn't seek the spotlight. She believed that strong people don't need strong leaders. Instead, she worked behind the scenes, training young activists and forming the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC, in 1960. This organization led sit-ins, freedom rides, and voter registration drives. Ella's philosophy was simple but radical. Real change comes from the people, not from a single leader. Because of her, grassroots activism became the foundation of the civil rights struggle. Today, her legacy lives in every community-led movement fighting for justice. The fight for civil rights wasn't just fought in the streets, it was won in the courts. And few fought harder than Constance Baker Motley. She was the first Black woman to argue a case before the U.S. Supreme Court, and she won 9 out of 10 landmark cases that reshaped America. Working alongside Thurgood Marshall, she helped draft the lawsuit that led to Brown v. Board of Education, the case that desegregated schools. Later, she defended James Meredith, the first Black student to integrate the University of Mississippi, despite facing death threats and riots. Constance didn't just break legal barriers, she shattered them. In 1966, she became the first Black woman appointed to the federal judiciary. She spent her life ensuring that justice wasn't just a promise but a reality. Every desegregated school, every legal protection for civil rights carries her mark. If I asked you who invented rock and roll, you might say Elvis Presley or Chuck Berry. But decades before them, a Black woman was doing it first. Her name was Sister Rosetta Tharpe. In the 1930s and 40s, while gospel music filled churches, Rosetta took her guitar and did something revolutionary. She combined gospel's soul with electric guitar riffs, creating a sound that would later inspire rock legends like Little Richard and Johnny Cash. But despite her influence, Rosetta was pushed aside in mainstream music history. She was a Black woman, a gospel singer, and openly queer, things that didn't fit the image of rock stardom at the time. It wasn't until 2018, more than 45 years after her death, that she was finally inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Today, Rosetta's recordings are being rediscovered, proving that she wasn't just a footnote in music history, she was its foundation. These women weren't just exceptional, they were pioneers, innovators, and fighters. Alice Ball's scientific brilliance saved lives. Ella Baker's vision shaped the civil rights movement. Constance Baker Motley's legal battles broke barriers, and Sister Rosetta Tharpe's music changed the world. Their stories remind us that history isn't just made by those in the spotlight. It's shaped by those who fight behind the scenes, who push forward despite being ignored, who build legacies that last generations. So the next time you hear about a civil rights victory, a legal breakthrough, or a guitar riff that shakes the world, remember the Black women whose brilliance, courage, and determination paved the way. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Let's keep these stories alive.